Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, we're gonna go over the rest of the stories that I didn't cover in the Discourses of Wilford Woodruff in this video that I recently did called Joseph Smith, Much Work to Do to Prepare for the Event. And in that video, we covered different experiences that he had where he had contact with the spirit world, specifically with Joseph Smith, Brigham Young, and then others as well. So if you missed that video, I'll put the link for it in the description below. But we read part of this chapter called Remarkable Manifestations, where there were other sections of that chapter that had to do with other interesting things that he experienced. So I want to go over that in this video because a lot of people in the comments said to continue, and it's something I want to do as well. I want to see what else he experienced. So before we do that, I've updated the Flood the Earth challenge, and I've revamped the spreadsheet. So you can see it looks visibly different than how I had it before. I've added a yearly section here where we can keep track of our progress year by year, because as of December 2nd of this year, we reached our 1 year mark of doing this challenge. So the years are going to go from basically December until November, and then the next December we'll start a new year. So that's why I have 2024 right here. Okay, so some exciting news, and it's a perfect time for this to happen with this new format. There was somebody that reported, so basically what happens a lot of times is some of you guys will like share the Book of Mormon and then not tell me until a little while afterward. And in this case, this person shared 3 copies of the Book of Mormon, and 2 of the people both met with the missionaries and then ended up getting baptized. So that brings us to a total of 101 contacts of, people meeting with the missionaries, and then a total of 34 baptisms. So that's how we're starting out this new year, 2024. 3 missionary contacts and 2 baptisms, and a total of 112 copies of the Book of Mormon shared so far for this next year. So good job, everybody. If you haven't joined already, I would encourage you to do so. The reason why is because you may experience success. The whole point of this challenge is to challenge you to share copies of the Book of Mormon that you may not have otherwise have shared, and then get those results. And also to encourage others to do the same and do this big group project. So let's keep moving forward. Okay, so here we are, the Discourses of Wilford Woodruff, 4th President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Hopefully you already know that, but you may not if you're a new convert. So first we had Joseph Smith, and then there was Brigham Young, John Taylor, and then Wilford Woodruff. Wilford Woodruff is the one that dedicated the Salt Lake Temple. And we've talked about him quite a bit on the channel. Now, this was, as it says here, selected, arranged, and edited by G. Homer Durham. And it turns out that he was a member of the First Quorum of the 70. He passed away in, let's see, is that when he passed away? Yeah, he passed away in 1985, but compiled by him, okay? Elder G. Homer Durham. Okay, so we're going to go down to this chapter 24, called Remarkable Manifestations. And so we're going to read the sections that I didn't read in that last video. Okay, let me get rid of this. Okay. Dreams and visions. So this is the first section of this chapter. Now, the Lord has many ways in which he communicates with us. Frequently, as has been the case in every age, truths, principles, warnings, etc., are communicated to the children of men by means of dreams and visions. There's a great vision recorded in the Book of Doctrine and Covenants. When Sidney Rigdon and Joseph Smith saw the visions of heaven, they were commanded to write while in the vision. The Lord was in that. It was a communication to man. But we have had a great many dreams I have had in my life, and I suppose you have more or less, which amount to nothing. I will tell you something about what I have reference to. A man eats a hot supper when he goes to bed. He gets the nightmare, he is chased by a bear, or he falls over a precipice, and as soon as he strikes the ground, he wakes up. Now, the Lord had nothing to do with that. A man may go to bed half worried to death, tired, and dream about something that will never take place. Last night, for instance, I dreamed I was making glass houses out of blocks of glass 2 feet square. Now, I don't know that the Lord was in that, yet I have had dreams of a very different character. When I was a boy, 11 years old, I had a very interesting dream, part of which was fulfilled to the very letter. In this dream, I saw a great gulf, a place where all the world had to enter at death before doing which they had to drop their worldly goods. I saw an aged man with a beaver hat and a broadcloth suit. The man looked very sorrowful. I saw him come with something on his back, which he had to drop among the general pile before he could enter the gulf. I was then but a boy. A few years later, after this, my father and mother removed to Farmington, and there I saw that man. I knew him the moment I saw him. His name was Chauncey Deming. In a few years afterwards, he was taken sick and died. I attended his funeral. He was what you may call a miser, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. When the coffin was being lowered into the grave, my dream came to me, and that night his son-in-law found $100,000 in a cellar belonging to the old man. I named this merely to show that in this dream I had manifested to me certain things that were true. I think all of the inhabitants of the world having to leave their goods when they come to the grave. After this scene had passed before me, I was placed in a great temple. It was called the Kingdom of God. The first man who came to me was Uncle Ozim, or I think that's how it's pronounced, Ozim Woodruff, and his wife, whom I helped into the temple. In process of time, after embracing the gospel and while on my first mission to Tennessee, I told Brother Patton of my dream, who told me that in a few years I would meet that man and baptize him. That was fulfilled to the very letter, for I afterwards baptized my uncle and his wife and some of the children, also my own father and stepmother and stepsister, and a Methodist priest or class leader. In fact, I baptized everybody in my father's house. I merely mention this to show that dreams sometimes do come to pass in life. Then again, there are visions. Paul, on one occasion was caught up to the third heaven and saw things that were not lawful to utter. He did not know whether he was in the body or out of the body. That was a vision. When Joseph Smith, however, was visited by Moroni and the apostles, it was not particularly a vision which he had. He talked with them face to face. Now, I will refer to a thing that took place with me in Tennessee. I was in Tennessee in the year 1835, and while at the house of Abraham O. Smoot, I received a letter from brothers Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery requesting me to stay there and stating that I would lose no blessing by doing so. Of course, I was satisfied. I went into a little room and sat down upon a small sofa. I was all by myself and the room was dark, and while I rejoiced in this letter and the promise made to me, I became wrapped in vision. I was like Paul. I did not know whether I was in the body or out of the body. A personage appeared to me and showed me the great scenes that should take place in the last days. One scene after another passed before me. I saw the sun darkened. I saw the moon become as blood. I saw the stars fall from heaven. I saw 7 golden lamps set in the heavens, representing the various dispensations of God to man, a sign that would appear before the coming of Christ. I saw the resurrection of the dead. In the first resurrection, those that came forth from their graves seemed to be all dressed alike. Okay, now it's interesting. I guess that's kind of how it's, I'm pausing here. I guess that's how it's kind of depicted in our paintings, right? Whenever you have a painting of the second coming, usually everybody is in like white robes, essentially. I don't know if that's how it's going to be. I wouldn't be surprised. It probably is. But anyway, it looks like Wilford Woodruff saw it or at least he saw everybody dressed alike. Okay, continuing. But in the second resurrection, they were as diverse in their dress as this congregation is before me today. Whoa, that's interesting. And if I had been an artist, I could have painted the whole scene as it was impressed upon my mind, more indelibly fixed than anything I'd ever seen with the natural eye. What does this mean? It was a testimony of the resurrection of the dead. I had a testimony. I believe in the resurrection of the dead, and I know it is a true principle. Thus, we may have dreams about things of great importance and dreams of no importance at all. The Lord warned Joseph in a dream to take the young child Jesus and his mother into Egypt, and thus he was saved from the wrath of Herod. Hence, there are a great many things taught to us in dreams that are true. And if a man has the Spirit of God, he can tell the difference between what is from the Lord and what is not. I want to pause here. Another thing about this, it was like a couple months ago, I did like a little like series of videos about dreams. And some people had the concern like, well, how do you know that it's not influenced by Satan? And I don't have this pulled up right now because what I'm reading right now, I haven't read before. I'm just reading it raw. Okay. But I did a video in response to that concern. And Joseph Smith taught that if you have a vision, a dream, something, just simply pray. It essentially test the spirits by praying to Heavenly Father to have him make known to you if it is true or if it isn't. And if it isn't, then you can know, then it'll Satan will flee from you and it'll be revealed, right? And that may sound very simple, but you have to wonder, there might be a lot of people out there that don't do that. They just assume, oh yeah, I had this incredible dream. It was really powerful. I had a vision. And so, of course, just by virtue of the fact that I had that dream or vision, of course it's from God. But no, you should pray because it could be a deception. So I just want to put that in here. I think I have that quote on my spreadsheets. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Okay, quotes A through Z. Try the spirits. Might as well have just done this in the first place. Okay, let's read what it says. Joseph Smith Jr. in Journal of Discourses, which should be in italics, volume 6, page 240. We may look for angels and receive their ministration, but we are to try the spirits and prove them. For it is often the case that men make a mistake in regard to these things. God has so ordained that when he has communicated, no vision is to be taken but what you see by the seeing of the eye, or what you hear by the hearing of the ear. When you see a vision, pray for the interpretation. If you get not this, shut it up. There must be certainty in this matter. I thought there was like more to it. Anyway, it's not the point of the video. Just you should pray about those things and not just necessarily accept it as true. And I'm sure a lot of people get deceived that way. Okay, so Wilford Woodruff just said, and if a man has the Spirit of God, he can tell the difference between what is from the Lord and what is not. And I want to say to my brethren and sisters that whenever you have a dream that you feel is from the Lord, pay attention to it. When I was in the city of London on one occasion with Brother George A. Smith, I dreamed that my wife came to me and told me that our first child had died. I believed my dream, and in the morning, while at breakfast, I felt somewhat sad. Brother George A. noticed this and told me I told him my dream. Next morning's post brought me a letter from my wife conveying the intelligence of the death of my child. It may be asked what use there was in such a thing. I don't know that there was much use in it except to prepare my mind for the news of the death of my child. But what I wanted to say in regard to these matters is that the Lord does communicate some things of importance to the children of men by means of visions and dreams, as well as by the records of divine truth. And what is it all for? it is to teach us a principle. We may never see anything take place exactly as we see it in a dream or a vision, yet it is intended to teach us a principle. So that's really interesting. It may not be some profound thing, but just simply to prepare you for something that's about to happen. So you can have kind of like a, I don't know, a buffer, a dry rehearsal, just to soften the blow, essentially. Okay, so, okay, here's the next one, and we have not read this. This is the administration of angels. I've had the administration of angels in my day and time, though I never prayed for an angel. I have had in several instances the administration of holy messengers. Some of you have read the story of the power of the devil in England when the fallen angels that are upon the earth made war upon Brother Kimball, Brother Hyde, Brother Fielding, and Brother Russell, who had all they could do to live in the midst of that kind of warfare. These evil spirits knocked down Brother Russell and Brother Hyde. They didn't Brother Kimball, but that power fell upon him. His eyes were open. He saw the spirits before him. He saw what kind of beings they were. They gnashed their teeth. They were mad. They wanted to destroy the lives of the brethren. These men held the priesthood. Brother Kimball held the keys of the priesthood so far as England was concerned. These spirits had not, therefore, the power to destroy them. Brother Kimball, Brother George A. Smith, and myself had a similar experience in London at the house where we were stopping. It seemed as if there were legions of spirits there. They sought our destruction. And on one occasion, after Brother Kimball had left us, these powers of darkness fell upon us to destroy our lives, and both Brother Smith and myself would have been killed, apparently, had not 3 holy messengers come into the room and filled the room with light. That is crazy. That's crazy. Okay. So they had some kind of, it seems, physical power. I would think if they were able to kill him. I really want to know like exactly what they're able to do, because it seems like they're able to do a lot of different things, but there are limits. But anyway, in this case, they were about to do what they were going to do, and then 3 angels came. Okay. Continuing, they were dressed in temple clothing. They laid their hands upon our heads, and we were delivered, and that power was broken so far as we were concerned. Why did the Lord send these men to us? Because we could not have lived without it. And as a general thing, angels do not administer to anybody on the earth unless it is to preserve the lives of good men, or to bring the gospel, or perform a work that men cannot do for themselves. We do not particularly need the administration of angels unless we are in a condition similar to that in which Brother Kimball, Brother Smith, and I were placed, when we could not save ourselves without them. Okay, now we already we read this, influence in the heavens. Sorry, we're going to have to skip down. An interview with Brigham Young, we read that. When men are called to the other side, we read that. Passing of A.H. Cannon. Yes. Again, if you missed it, I'll put the link in the description below. We covered these already in this video called Joseph Smith. Much work to do to prepare for the event. And if you have not watched that video, I would encourage you to do so. Some very interesting things. Saving the farm, literally. The Pittsburgh Steamboat Experience. Yeah, we read that. An incident moving the carriage. Okay, so now we're going to continue. After I came to these valleys and returned to winter quarters, I was sent to Boston by President Young. He wanted me to take my family there and gather all the saints of God in New England, in Canada, and in the surrounding regions, and stay there until I gathered them all. That's a pretty tall order. I was there I was there about 2 years. While on the road there, I drove my carriage one evening into the yard of Brother Williams. Brother Orson Hyde drove a wagon by the side of mine. I had my wife and children in the carriage. It had not been there for a few minutes when the Spirit said to me, "Get up and move that carriage." I told my wife I had to get up and move the carriage. She said, "What for?" I said, "I don't know." That is all she asked. That is all she asked me on such occasions. When I told her I did not know, that was enough. I got up and moved my carriage 4 or 5 rods and put the off forewheel against the corner of the house. I then looked around me and went to bed. The same spirit said, "Go and move your animals from that oak tree." There were 200 yards from there. There were 200 yards. They were 200 yards from where my carriage was. I went and moved my horses and moved them in a little hickory grove. I again went to bed. In 30 minutes, a whirlwind came up and broke that oak tree off within 2 feet of the ground. It swept over 3 or 4 fences. And fell square in that dooryard near Brother Orson Hyde's wagon. And right there, right where mine had stood. What would have been the consequences if I had not listened to that spirit? Why, myself and wife and child doubtless would have been killed. That was the still small voice to me. No earthquake, no thunder, no lightning, but the still small voice of the Spirit of God. It saved my life. It was the spirit of revelation to me. He's been saved a number of times, by the way. We've already read of like 2 times. One from this tornado, one from the evil spirits in London. And then in the previous video, he was saved there too. So he had a target on his back, which would make sense. He became the 4th president of the church. Okay, redemption of the Lamanites, a dream. I had a dream one night about our temple in Salt Lake City. I thought the temple was dedicated and organized, and we as the elders of Israel were laboring there for the redemption of our dead, and suddenly there was a door opened in the west, and an Indian chief came into the temple, leading a vast host of his tribe, and took possession of the temple. And I thought they performed more work in 1 hour than we could do in a day. This made a strong impression on my mind. I am satisfied that, although we have done a little for the Lamanites, we've got to do a great deal more. I believe I sealed the first Lamanitish man and woman together that ever were sealed in this dispensation. It was in the endowment house, and quite a number of brethren and sisters were present. The man's name was Laman. What? The man's name was Laman. I believe the day will come when these Lamanites, that rests upon them, will enter into these temples of the Lord in these mountains and do a great deal of work. They will come to an understanding of the redemption of the dead. They will have wisdom given unto them. They will have light and truth given unto them, and the spirit of their forefathers will be manifest unto them. Well, again, here we are in 2023, LDS Meeting House Locator. I really like this tool, not just to find a particular meeting house, but to see where all the different congregations in the church are. And you can kind of visually see it. And there are many, many meeting houses throughout Latin America, Mexico, Central America, South America, right? The Caribbean. In fact, after the United States, the 2 largest countries in the church are Mexico and then Brazil. So we have come a long, long way since that time. And you can see it right here with all these little red dots. And then, of course, all the Latin Americans that live in the United States and Canada, because there's Spanish branches, or even just people that just speak English, and maybe that's their only language, but they're of that ancestry. Okay. The story of Father Hyman. I was once moved upon to go and warn old Father Hyman, living on Petty John Creek, Arkansas. He had been in Jackson County during the persecution period. His wife died there. His family consisted of 5 sons, all over 6 feet tall. All right, so it's a family of big feet. Most of them had been whipped with hickory gads by mobs, and he went south into Arkansas, taking his sons with him. We went a good deal out of our way for the purpose of visiting Father Hyman. I had a vision the night previous in which was manifested to me the trouble that lay before us, but that the Lord would deliver us. We arrived at his house on Sunday morning. He was taking breakfast. We had had breakfast at the place where we stayed overnight. I saw a Book of Mormon on his shelf. He did not seem to pay any attention to us or to take any interest in us. I took up the Book of Mormon and said, "You have a very good book here." "Yes," he said, "but it is a book that came from the devil." That opened my eyes. He had been an elder. He had been in Zion, had been persecuted there and driven out. But I found that he had apostatized, and he was our enemy. I saw he would do anything he could against us. We left him and went to Brother Hubbard's and stayed with him 3 weeks, during which we took our axes and cleared some land for him. I was strongly impressed 3 times to go up and warn Father Hakeman. At last I did so according to the commandments of God to me. The 3rd time I met with him, his house seemed to be full of evil spirits, and I was troubled in spirit at the manifestation. When I finished my warning, I left him. He followed me from his house with the intention of killing me. I have no doubt about his intention, for it was shown to me in vision. When he came to where I was, he fell dead at my feet, as if he had been struck with a thunderbolt from heaven. Holy cow. This is just like what happened, well, kind of like what happened with, I think this happened yesterday. Let's see, Turkish. Okay, here we go. So it says, Turkish parliamentarian suffers heart attack after condemning Israel's war on Gaza. Hassan Bitmes, a member of the Grand National Assembly, collapsed after delivering his speech. His last words to the members of parliament was, speaking of Israel, "You will not escape the wrath of Allah. I salute you all." And then literally right after he said that, he collapsed from a heart attack. And you can watch the video. I have this reposted on my X account. I'm not going to show it here on YouTube because it would probably violate the content guidelines and stuff like that. But he just basically cursed Israel, or said that God was going to curse Israel. And then immediately he had a heart attack. And I don't know how he's doing right now. I haven't seen any updates, but it just made me think about that. That just recently happened. Let's see. This post is dated December 12th, so I guess it was a few days ago. But anyway, all right, so let's go back to this. When he came to where I was, he fell dead at my feet, as if he had been struck with a thunderbolt from heaven. I was then a priest, but God defended me and preserved my life. I speak of this because it is a principle that has been manifest in the Church of God in this generation as well as in others. I had the administration of angels while holding the office of a priest. I had visions and revelations. I traveled thousands of miles. I baptized men, though I could not confirm them because I had not the authority to do it. I speak of these things to show that a man should not be ashamed of any portion of the priesthood. Our young men, if they are deacons, should labor to fulfill that office. If they do that, they may then be called to the office of a teacher, whose duty it is to teach the people, visit the saints, and see that there is no evil or iniquity carried on. God has no respect for persons in this priesthood any farther than as they magnify their callings and their duty. All right. Next one, the call and desire to preach the gospel. As I have said, while holding the office of teacher, I went to Missouri in Zion's camp. After arriving in Missouri, having gone through many trials and tribulations and suffering from cholera, which caused us to lay in the grave 15 of our brethren, we stayed at Brother Lyman White's. While at Lyman White's, I attended council meetings with the prophet, with David Whitmer, with Oliver Cowdery, and other leading brethren of the church. David Whitmer was the president of the Stake of Zion. Brother Joseph reproved him very sharply, as well as some of the other brethren, because of their lack in fulfilling the commandments of God in doing their duty. While at that place, I had a great desire in my heart to go and preach the gospel. I went off one Sunday night by myself into a hickory grove several hundred yards from the settlement, and I asked the Lord to open the door for me that I might go and preach the gospel. I did not want to preach the gospel for any honor I might get on this earth, for I thoroughly understood, as far as a man could in my condition, that a preacher what a preacher would have to pass through. It was not honor, nor wealth, nor gold, nor silver that I desired, but I knew this was the gospel of Christ, revealed to me by the power of God. I knew this was the church of Christ. I knew Joseph Smith was a prophet of God, and I had a desire that I might preach the gospel to the nations of the earth. I asked the Lord to give me that privilege. The Lord answered that prayer and said I should have my desire granted. I got up rejoicing. I walked about 200 yards out in the open road, and when I got into the road, there stood Judge Higbee. Said he, Brother Woodruff, the Lord has revealed to me that it is your duty to be ordained to go and preach the gospel. Wow. Said I, has he? Yes. Well, said I, if the Lord wants me to preach the gospel, I am perfectly willing to go and do that. I did not tell him I had been praying for this. The consequence was I attended a council at Lyman White's and was called and ordained to the office of a priest in the Aaronic priesthood, while other brethren were ordained elders. I was called by Bishop Partridge to go to the southern country on a mission. Bishop Partridge asked me a great many questions, and I asked him questions. It was then dangerous for any of our brethren to go through Jackson County. He wanted me to go to Arkansas, and the road led square through Jackson County. I asked him if we should go through there. I had a companion with me, an elder. Said he, if you've got faith to do it, you may. I haven't. I thought that was a curious remark from a bishop. Well, said I, the Lord says we must travel without purse or scrip. Shall we do it? Said he, that is the law of God. If you have faith to do it, you can do it. He said he had hardly got faith to go into Jackson County. However, we started and went through Jackson County. We came near losing our lives and were saved almost by a miracle. We traveled through Arkansas and other parts. But I do not want to dwell on these things. I merely wish to say that I went out as a priest and my companion as an elder, and we traveled thousands of miles and had many, many things manifested to us. I desire to impress upon you the fact that it does not make any difference whether a man is a priest or an apostle if he magnifies his calling. A priest holds the key of the ministering of angels. Neither in my life as an apostle, as a 70, or as an elder have I ever had more of the protection of the Lord than while holding the office as a priest. The Lord revealed to me by visions, by revelations, and by the Holy Spirit many things that lay before me. Gosh, this is so incredible. Okay, and that's it. So we've gone through all the different things that were compiled into this book, all these spiritual, sacred, unique experiences that Wilford Woodruff had, and it's just incredible to see how the Lord works. And I know that these things continue today, to various people, and normally these things really shouldn't be shared. I have an entry on my quotes A through Z spreadsheet about sacred experiences, and maybe we can just end on this, or maybe it's under spiritual experiences. There's actually a number of quotes that I have, and they all have to do with the fact that they do happen, but you need to be careful who you share it with. Take caution because they're sacred. Some things are appropriate to share, but other things you really shouldn't. And before I read this quote, I think some of the reasons why you should be careful who you share things with is because if you share it with a person that's toxic, that lives this life in a competitive way, they're always competing with everybody, they're always trying to put you down, they're always trying to one-up you. If you share a sacred experience and you don't know or you don't understand that person is toxic, what they are going to do is they're going to try and diminish your experience because it makes them feel bad because they haven't had a similar experience. So in their minds, they have to make it not important so that they feel better about themselves. Or they may not do that. They may listen to your experience, but then they fabricate or come up with some other experience that they had that in their mind was better or bigger or grander than yours. So that's one reason you want to be careful with that kind of stuff. But there could be other reasons too, where there's messages that are just for you. There may be things that you receive that just other people won't necessarily understand. Things having to do with your family or your choice of employment or whatever the case may be. And I feel like in my life, there's been a lot of decisions that I've made where had I consulted with other people, they would have given me their conventional wisdom and I'd be living a completely different life than what I am right now. Believe me, because I've done a lot of unconventional things, and they were based on just promptings that I've had from the Spirit, sometimes dreams and sometimes just promptings. But they've brought me to a place where I know I need to be. And so no one's wiser than the Lord. So that's why you have to be careful taking advice from other people when you've received some kind of spiritual guidance. The better guidance is from the Spirit, obviously. So let me just read this. This is from, 1996. I don't know if he was, I normally put what office or what their priesthood office is and position, but I didn't for this one. I'll have to fix that. 1996. I'm not sure if at that time he was the president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, but this is Boyd K. Packer in a book called Things of My Soul, 1996. I got to fix this whole citation because I have to put the publisher and all that. This is probably like one of my early things that I put on here. Okay, he says, dreams and visions and visitations are not uncommon in the church and are part of all that the Lord has revealed in this dispensation. Thus, a worthy church member may be the recipient of a marvelous spiritual experience. I have come to know that these experiences are personal and are to be kept private. Recipients should ponder them in their heart and not talk about them. Those personal spiritual experiences do not convey any authority to direct the lives of others, unless the recipient is the father or the mother of one who has been properly called, or one who has been properly called and set apart. So those are some guidelines, right? And Elder Renland in a recent general conference talked about the fact that there's different revelation that's received. There's revelation that's received for the church, but that's in the prophets. He used the metaphor of runways, like that planes land on. So things for the church, that's within the prophet's runway. Things for children, it could be in your runway if you're their parent, but you don't receive revelation for other people. And keep it private. And that's why, if you ever put something in the comments or send me an email and it's something like really special or private, a lot of times I'll just skip it and I will not share it because it's not appropriate. And although I do appreciate, I just want to make known, I do appreciate when people, are confident enough to share something with me, but because we don't know each other, we know we're both members we're brothers and sisters, but you don't know me personally. I don't know you personally. And you just want to keep things sacred and private. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.